Welcome to From the Shed End podcast with myself, TDOT. Got a guest with me in replace of Theo, who is not able to join us tonight. But just introduce yourself, let everyone know who you are.
Yo, first of all, thanks for having me. And my name is Dennis. I go by the Couch Critic. Just a big Chelsea fan, and always trying to you know, engage the fan base in the right way. No bias or anything like that. I really just try and speak from what I see, and usually what I see is what I see. I don't really try to sugarcoat that, but I'm happy to be here and really looking forward to getting into it with you.
Yeah, and again, thanks for coming on. Appreciate you coming on and just taking the time out as well. But it's probably the most awkward time because of the way that we played on Saturday. It's a shame that we're not talking about a game that has blew us away or gave us something really to talk about. It gave us things to talk about, but for the wrong reasons,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But
Well, I mean, we could do it again, but this is just the start, right? This is the beginning.
100%,
we
100%,
gotta start. We gotta
100%.
start on a level and then build ourselves up.
100%. But let's
Yeah,
get straight into it. Let's talk
sure.
about Crystal Palace, a team that we've had a good record. I think the last game we played at Selhurst last season, I think was 4-1. We also beat them 3-0, I think, earlier in the season. So I, I'm going to be honest. I didn't expect loads of goals. I didn't expect us to beat them 4-5-6-0, but
Hmm.
I did expect a better performance. And we're gonna get onto
Absolutely.
Lukaku separately. I think he needs his own little segment tonight. But
Hmm.
let's talk about the performance overall in terms of from Chelsea's perspective and also Palace as well, because I thought they played really well. Tyreek Mitchell was one of the key outstanding players for them. But what was your thoughts on Chelsea?
Man, I really just think that everything just came down to selections and lineups for the most part. The modern game right now, it just calls for fullbacks. Like you have to have your fullbacks engaged in the final third if you really want to be effective there. And for teams that like a Chelsea that want to have all the possession and want to be obviously imposing in the final third. If you don't have wingbacks that want to get forward, overlap, fullbacks that want to overlap, you're dead in the water as far as I'm concerned. And I think that was evident today, or on
Yeah,
the against the game against Crystal Palace, just because we are struggling with our attackers right now. We haven't had a lot of form from our attacking players as is, outside of Ziyech, who's basically found incredible form. I know we'll get into that
mm,
later, but um, like if we're not presenting numbers in the final third that can, overwhelm teams and whatnot, you're going to be caught out. And right now we're basically attacking with 3 or 4 players, and we're facing low block defenses that have 6, 7, 8 players in the box at a time, and it's very difficult for players who aren't necessarily technically sound to find the right angles, the right positions to get into to affect the game in a positive way. We don't necessarily have the most technical striker in Lukaku as is, and when we're asking him to be that sort of like technical conduit as the spear of our attack, we're going to have problems when we're trying to break down low block defenses, because that's just not the strength of his game. And I think that the Crystal Palace game basically highlighted that. Like, they played a low block, but also what they did was they screened Lukaku. They had a sitter in front of him, and then they had a defender that was on top of him the whole time. And as much as you want more from your 97 million pound striker, ultimately you got to pay the strengths. Like, you can't
mm,
expect to get blood from a stone. Like, Lukaku's not the most technical striker. He's not the most mobile striker as well. And when you pay 97 million pounds for a striker, you expect to have a system built that would exalt his strengths. And I just don't think that we're doing that right now. And the Palace game was a perfect example of that. Outside of the Lukaku thing, I think that what we saw was really problematic was the fact that we played Malong, Sarr, and Christensen on the flanks, and they were the ones that were not necessarily providing width, but they're the ones that you would likely see provide width, because of the fact that you know that's how you overwhelm teams in the final third, when you have your fullbacks get forward. And we just basically played. We camped up really high in the final third. Like, Rudiger, Silva were very much engaged in the Crystal Palace half, but we really didn't have enough thrust in that final third to really impact the game. And I feel like that comes down to the fullback play. And you can't ask Sarr and Christensen to play as dynamic wingbacks like Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold, or even in our case Chilwell and Reece James, because that's just not their game. And one of the things that I always harp on when I'm talking about is like players will always resort to their type. If you have an attacker, a number 10, a number 10 will always think the game is a number 10. A defender will always think the game is a defender, a central defender. And when you try to play them out of position and you're expecting them to, adapt their game and, show versatility, that's not always the case with a lot of players. You can certainly see that that's not the case with Malang Sarr. Malang Sarr is nowhere near a fullback, if you're asking him to get forward and like overlap and like, combine in the final third, you're just not going to see that a lot. He did have the nice, pass into Conte that produced should have been a goal, but those are moments, and those are not moments. Don't make games. So you have to consistently have a philosophy that is indicative to creating opportunity to score goals. And with fullbacks that don't necessarily have a true understanding of how to get forward and overlap and play in telling balls, you're just going to struggle. And I feel like that was what we saw for large parts of that Crystal Palace game.
Yeah, it's a strange one, because I agree with you. I think not having Reece James, not having Ben Chilwell has definitely been a massive hindrance. I feel like that is potentially a massive reason why we haven't got the best out of Lukaku.
Absolutely.
I think you got to look at this, like you just said, there's been times where we've played Callum Hudson-Odoi in wing-back positions, or we've played Christian Pulisic in those positions as well. And it's worked. We might have won the game, but it does take away a lot of those chances that, Reece James, Ben Chilwell would be providing for Lukaku as well. So I think I agree with you 100%, but I do think, 7 touches or whatever it was, 7 touches, it's not good. Even if you're not even 97 million, if you're a Sunday league or a semi-pro footballer, you still have to work and you still have to do the the running. You still have to get Lukaku's a striker that he should be doing more. He should be doing more. I'm not saying it's an attitude issue, or obviously there's off-field issues that are still there. That's clear to see, but I just think it's a mixture of things for me. I think it's the fact yes, at times he's not getting the service. He does make the right run. There's times where I think even in the Palace game, I think Kai Havertz, there's a beautiful pass on for Lukaku, and he'll look elsewhere or he'll go back. And I find that a lot with us. We tend to get into
recognition is not there. The recognition.
Yeah, of course. And we'll get into that final third, and we either don't look forward, we'll pass sideways, or we'll try and do something slick and nice, and then we'll lose the ball, or we end up back with Mendy or Kepa, whoever's in goal. So I think there's a mixture of things, but I do think he's got to do better. And for me, it's a struggle, because obviously you've paid 97 million for a striker, you want him to do well. I think the consistency is a massive issue. I think the fact that we haven't had a consistent front three or a consistent partner for Lukaku, and I think Tuchel's trying to do that with Kai Havertz. I think he's trying to give Lukaku he's basically giving him every option possible to say, look, we've tried everything. We've tried to fit you into a system. I think if you're a world-class striker, which I feel like when we signed him, a lot of us said he's of world-class to an extent, you have to adapt. You have to be able to adapt, whether that's adapt to a system. Yeah, you have to get yourself out of a bad run of form, which I felt like he did at the Club World Cup. I thought those 2 goals, Al Hilal and Palmeiras, you think, okay, he's scored now. He's back on the track. But
big goals, big goals.
Massive.
You think that would just spur him on and give him some confidence to build on. But that Crystal Palace game was again a step backwards, right?
I'd say so. I think that's probably I don't really check into stats, but I'm pretty sure I read since those stats have been collected, this is the record now. This is the least times a player's touched the ball, and I think one of those would have been kickoff. I'm sure so take that one away. There's 6. I think he had 2 touches in the first half. This is more now an issue, I think. And one of the questions I wanted to ask you was, because I don't think he's going anywhere in the summer. I don't think he's
No.
going to be sold. I don't think a club's going to come in and take him off our hands for the money that we paid for him. We don't sell for less than what we pay for players ultimately most of the time. But just in terms of Lukaku, he's going to be staying in my opinion. But we've got Broja at Southampton, who for me is the answer in some ways. I think he's the answer for Lukaku in terms of Lukaku currently doesn't have anyone else competing for his position
But
necessarily.
should he though? But should he though at this point? Like we got Werner, who you spent like what 50 million pounds on, and we have Kai Havertz, who probably is not best suited as a striker.
They're
I
not
think he's
number
a
nines
striker,
though.
but
They're not. No,
yeah,
I mean, Broja
oh no,
reminds me of a Diego Costa. So I don't think
absolutely
we've ever replaced Diego Costa. And before
no.
that, we had Didier Drogba, and they even in their worst games, they would put out a performance that you could say, okay, at least you've tried. You've got a couple of shots on target. You're in the right position. You're in the box. You're doing everything you're possibly able to do to try and score.
But
I'm not pinging.
T-Dot, can I just ask you this question?
Yeah, of course, gone.
I just feel like the style of play is completely different, right? I think when we
100%.
played with even Didier and when we played with like Costa, the style of play that we had was more counter-attacking football, and it's almost ironic that that's the style of football that Lukaku actually flourishes in as well. You know, he's better at running at the defenders. He's better at utilizing open space to get in behind and whatnot. And right now, because we're a possession-based team, and we want to be more on the front foot, like this does not suit his game. Like you could probably make the argument that the style of play that we're playing right now wouldn't suit the likes of Diego Costa right now, because he's not the most fleet of foot player. He's not the most technically sound as well. And I wonder if we had Diego Costa even of 2015, if we would be seeing the same sort of results. Just maybe not. I mean, I think that he is technically better than Lukaku, and he provides more of a threat in the air, just even winning an aerial duel. But like, I mean, just the overall play, I'm wondering if we would see anything different. That's what I question.
Well, I think that there's two things. I think you got to look at who Costa was playing with. He had Eden Hazard.
Fabregas.
You look at Drogba. He had Lampard and other players around him, and I think we've lost that as well. We haven't replaced Cesc Fabregas. There's no one that's going to be able to unlock a defense, make something, create something. Which Cesc Fabregas. I was watching last night. I can't remember what game it was. I think it might have been Bolton or somewhere. It was somewhere he pinged the pass through from his own half, into the attacking half, and we haven't got someone that does that. We haven't got, you look at Mason Mount. He does it in spells. He doesn't do it consistently enough, but he does it in spells.
It's not his game. Like he's like a jackknife, right? Like a Swiss Army knife, where he can do a lot of things, but it's not necessarily his game to be the guy that's going to be the conduit for like playing those splitting passes. He can do it. He can do it, but it's not a regular occurrence in his game. Like if you see it, you're like, oh, he can do that too. But it's not something that you can depend on 90% of the time.
But this is what we haven't got, and this is why I think yes, Lukaku has to take 98% of that. The issues, especially in the Palace game as well. But at the same time as well, you've got to look at some of the players around him. I look at like a Callum Hudson-Odoi when he plays. His decision making isn't the best. Ruben Loftus-Cheek, his decision making isn't the best. Timo Werner, the same thing. That they're all deers in headlights when they've got the ball, and they're in that final third. They've got a choice. Do you pass it into the box if Lukaku's there? Do you try and take on your defender? They don't do none sometimes, and we lose possession. So I think yes, Lukaku 100%, 7 touches, 97 million. Is not
every time you say that, it just hurts my heart to hear that.
Yeah, because
our striker, who's supposed to be our, the one that we're fashioning final balls for and whatnot, the guy that we want to get on the end of things, had 7 touches the entire match. Like that is astoundingly poor.
In
any system, it doesn't matter how you're playing. If you're playing on the counter. If you're playing on the counter and you're looking for somebody to hold up the ball, you're launching balls. He doesn't even win any aerial duels, like he's not able to hold up the ball, Anderson was bullying him off the ball every now and then,
and Guehi as well.
It's unreal. Like this is not the quality of football that you expect to see from a guy, who forget the price tag, the guy that scored as many goals that he has that he has scored in his career. Like, this guy is a bona fide goal scorer, no doubt about it, you know? And, you know, I question now, like, it's not so much that I think that, because to be honest with you, I didn't want Lukaku. I didn't think that he would be right for the style of football that we're trying to play. And it's proven to be true right now. But I figured that if we're going to bring him in, if this is the guy that we're going to hitch our wagon to, we have to cater our style of play to his skill set, you know. And
what do you think that is, though? Because I mean, obviously, when you
I honestly think that Lukaku is best when he's running at defenses. So you have to play on the counter. You know, you have to provide him with space in behind, and you have to provide him with opportunities to make decisions when he's on the ball. Like, if you play the ball to Lukaku in the final third and he has one option, that's not going to lead to anything, because he's not the most technically sound footballer, you know. Like, he's not going to be able to like dribble through. Like, you see him do those step overs every now and then. Like, it's not fooling anybody. Everyone knows what's going to happen. He's going to get back on his left and he's going to try and shoot. So he can do the step overs all day. He doesn't have the technical ability to trick anybody. So I feel like what Chelsea need to do, if they're going to cater to Lukaku's strengths, is they have to drop the line back a little bit further, because right now the pitches are so condensed that, you know, what we require is in the final third is somebody that's really technically sound and able to, like, you know, be nimble of foot and like play in behind, you know, dribble past 1 and 2 players. You know, Lewandowski would work in this system. You know, Benzema would work in this system. But Lukaku's not that sort of striker. Lukaku is the kind of guy that uses his pace and power to bully defenders. And when he's back at goal, it's not conducive to see that sort of like that sort of football. So you have to drop the line a little bit deeper, allow defenders to come out a bit more, and then when they do, you play it in behind and allow him to use his pace and power. That's basically Lukaku in a nutshell. That's what we saw him be successful at with Antonio Conte at Inter Milan. And, you know, I don't understand how you can pay 97 million pounds for a striker and not cater to his strengths. That's my conundrum right now.
I'm just looking at the comment there. Shout out GNA TV, good channel. Make sure you check them out as well, because they do a lot of good content. But it was a shit show performance, I have to admit. I think defensively, I think we were brilliant. I think we can't take anything away from, you know, Silva, Rudiger, Christensen, Malang Sarr, Mendy, of course, as well. But Hakim Ziyech, let's talk about him, because he for me has stepped up. You know, he's had to step up. He had a lot of criticism the start of the season before, albeit that he got injured. I think even if the season he joined and then last season, he both times he got injured. So he's come into this now, and obviously criticisms woke him up by the looks of it. You know, he's realized that he's got to step up, and he's doing well. Well taken goal for me. I think that was a very difficult goal to take. You know, I think it looked easy.
Side-footed it too. Side-footed it. You know, and it
could have gone anywhere.
Very difficult.
But he saved us. What was your thoughts on Hakim Ziyech's performance?
I thought he was brilliant. He was the offensive conduit throughout the entire match. All of the balls that he played into the box, you would think should have been attacked and should have been finished. You know, like, if any competent strikers get those kind of balls, you expect him to finish them. Like, he played them, put them on a sixpence every time, and, you know, it just wasn't attacked correctly. But I think that, I don't know if necessarily the criticism is what's woken up Hakim Ziyech. I think it's this change in shape. You know, the fact that we're playing 4 at the back and he's playing as an actual out-and-out winger right now has helped him, because that's his natural role. You know, I've been banging on about this for a long, long time right now. For the longest time, Chelsea have been playing too many players out of position and expecting them to get performances in roles that they're not comfortable in, you know? I mean, not everyone possesses versatility in football. Like, some people just can only play a specific style of football, a specific way. And that's how you get the best out of them. When you ask them to do something that's out of their scope, their realm, they struggle. And I think that's Hakim Ziyech. You're seeing him now as a right winger, you know, an out-and-out winger, not really trying to get in the, you know, the dangerous areas. He's basically just camped out on that right flank. And, you know, you see the balls that he puts in, they're on a sixpence every time, you know. You know, when he's isolated 1v1 versus a defender that he knows he has the beating of, which I mean, Mitchell did have a good game, but at the same time, you know, Ziyech beat him more than a few times, like
Yeah,
like
definitely.
a few times, like
Mm,
not just for the goal, but also, his ability to dribble past him and whatnot. He beat him, and I think that when you play players and like they're struggling for form, like the likes of Hakeem Ziyech, we're playing him at wing back, Pulisic at wing back, Callum Hudson-Odoi at wing back. We saw instances where who is it? Havertz is playing, isolated on the flanks and stuff like that. That's
mm,
not where those guys are most comfortably suited, And when you play them, especially when they're out of form, when you play them in their preferred roles, you start seeing them come back to life again. And I think that that's important. Like you have to give players a chance to find their form in their best position first before you start like, okay, well, let me try you here because we have a hole here, and let me try you over here because we have a need here. We need some more dribbling technique. We've basically rotated these players, a lot of these players, out of form. A lot of them, like these are not bad footballers. We're just playing them out of position so much that they can't find their football. And I'm not just looking at Ziyech. I'm looking at Callum Hudson-Odoi. Like when Tuchel came to Chelsea, his first, despite playing a three at the back, which was noticeable, like the fact that we noticeably went to a different system. He the other wrinkle was he played Callum Hudson-Odoi at wing back. That was the first
mm,
time we saw him there. And I get it. Like sometimes you have to show players what it feels like to play in a position that is foreign to them so they can understand what it means when you leave a flank open. Like Callum wasn't very defensively responsible. You play him a wing back, he understands when he's left isolated and he's got two attackers running at him. He knows what that feels like now. So now he's going to take more impetus in the defensive aspects of the game because he knows how it feels to be isolated. But for me, Ziyech has only really just come into form when we switch to four at the back. A position that he's comfortable in, and he's flourishing in it. Even working hard off the ball, like trying to win tackles and stuff like that. All of that is on display right now when he's playing his preferred role. The inside number 10 role is just not for him, and you know I'm not going to ask for versatility from a player who can put a ball on a sixpence like he can. Like let him do what he does. Find a
mm.
system that works for him. But if you're not playing that system, don't expect him to play wing back and be effective there.
Yeah, and it's true. I suppose we have to remember as well. A lot of these players have been put in those positions wrongfully because of injuries, because of
Yeah.
COVID, because of whatever the case is. So I think this is why it's very difficult in some ways to judge some of these players this season because of all the injuries that we've had, because of the COVID issues. Like you just mentioned, I think Callum Hudson-Odoi's played left and right wing back at one point. Pulisic, I know, has played right back as well, or right wing back. So I do get it, and I think, but we need that consistency. These players are
Absolutely.
top level players. They're players that are playing for one of the champions of the world. Like this is what we are now. So to be playing at this level, you have to have a bit of adaptation to your game. You have to be able to slot into somewhere and play a
Hmm.
game. Not all the time. I think if it becomes a thing where you've got Callum Hudson-Odoi who's you've got Alonso on the bench, but you're playing Callum Hudson-Odoi left wing back. I get that sometimes because you don't want to risk him, which we'll get onto probably in a minute with the predicted lineups. But
Hmm.
you get, you're going to get that every now and again. But if it's a consistent thing, constantly being played out of position, of course, it's difficult for them to find any form. But we haven't had consistency, and this is one of the things that, for me, is always going to be an issue until we get the full uh, squad back. Because I think
Well, let's just be honest. Like when you're talking about the full squad, you're just talking about our left and right wing backs. Like
that
everything
and
else is fine.
well,
Like we
well,
need
that
those two. They're so
That and I
crucial.
think you got to look at Conor Gallagher. If he comes back, I think he can play in that team. I think
Where would you
Broja
play
could.
him? Where would you play Conor Gallagher?
I'd play. Well, there's talk of Jorginho going. There's talk of Conte going soon as well. There's a lot of players that need to go, but Barkley needs to go as well. So I'm not saying
Yeah.
there's loads of players that he could easily get Premier League time. He's proven at Crystal Palace that he's someone, in my opinion, that can fit into that midfield.
Hmm.
Um, the same with Broja. I mean, again, he reminds me of Diego Costa. He's a
I agree.
bully. He's a bully on the ball. He's not scared to take defenders on, and this is what we're lacking. And I think this is going to go one or two ways. Full circle back to Lukaku. It's going to go one or two ways because this could help Lukaku by having him there. We're talking about playing to his strengths. When he was at Inter Milan, I think he had Martinez up front with him as well.
Mhm.
They played the two up front, so it could work. It could also give him that little sort of competition, and you shouldn't need it as a £97 million player. You shouldn't need it, but
Finished product, you should be. Yeah.
when you're on a lot of money a week and you've been brought in for big money, and you know that there's no one else that can really take your spot, that's a number 9. You might play off. You might have an off day. You might think, I'm still getting paid. I might go and do an interview and say that I don't really want to be at the club,
Right.
and get away with it because there's no one else that can really take my spot. But if you've got someone that can take your spot, you might want to score just in case you get benched for the next 3 or 4 games or 5 months.
You're speaking to squad depth right now, and that's basically it, right? I mean, our wing backs, we don't have any replacements for Reece James and Ben Chilwell. We really don't. In terms of what we need from that position, we just don't have a replacement for those guys. And when you talk about Lukaku, it's the same. Like we don't have a clinical striker. And when we talk about like Broja, like that, I think he's going to be a great player. I just think that we have to be really careful with this guy. We don't want to put too much pressure on him, at a young age. This is a very, very high level. This isn't Southampton. This is a very, very high level that we're asking these guys to perform at. And even beyond that, just even the style of play, like Southampton play on the break as well. They don't look to be they're not a possession-based team. They want to play on the break as well. So can he adapt his game to being a possession-based team, where the field is really condensed? Can he be nimble of foot to get in, dribble in and around and, use his movement to get into good areas to score goals? That's still yet to be seen. Like right now, the beauty of what we're seeing from, Broja is very similar to what we see from Diego Costa, just power and pace, to get in a fearlessness, to get in behind and get in those dangerous areas, but mostly on the break. I don't think that we've seen anything that involved like interplay in the final third that has led to a goal. Like most of the opportunities that we've seen him score in have come from him getting on the break, going 1v1 against the defender, beating him, and then scoring, or something of that sort. So there's still an adaptation to even playing this system that we're talking about right now, where we're a possession-based team, where, the like I said, the field is very condensed. Can you find the spaces to, to get into areas where you can score goals? I think that that's still an area that remains to be seen in his game, but I'm welcoming him back. I think that we need him back in the squad right now because what I've seen of him is like you said, it's likened to Diego Costa, and I think that that's something that we could utilize in the squad if we change the way we play a bit.
I think it gives us options as well. I think
Absolutely.
Again, we're talking about Timo Werner, Kai Havertz. They should be able to play in those roles. I necessarily don't like to see them playing in that sort of number 9 role. I just don't think it works for them. I think Kai Havertz sort of playing on either side of that works a lot better. He makes a lot of room, and this is why I think it would help to maybe, I agree with you, maybe change the formation, change the style of play to maybe suit Broja or Lukaku, whoever. But I think having Broja, I think it'd be a shame because I've had this conversation here before, but I think you look at the likes of Billy Gilmore, who might have to move on because I don't think he's going to be able to get a game at Chelsea. There's talk of, I think Lampard sort of already inquiring about Billy Gilmore, Conor Gallagher and Broja as well. He's inquired about all 3 of them for next season already. So we've got players that we can bring back, but we also need to look in the summer at offloading and potentially bringing in, a top quality striker to maybe play alongside Lukaku, or to give Lukaku something to think about, and maybe incorporate Broja as well. Keep him at the club, let him sort of understand what his expectations are for the next couple of seasons at Chelsea, rather than loan him out and then we might not see him again.
Yeah.
Well, you look at Tomori, you look at some of these players that we've had, Mark Guehi as well. We've had quality players that can potentially come into the squad and they've had to move on to get game time. So it might be, I mean, I don't think it's going to happen. I think Broja's going to stay, but you just never know. You never know with Chelsea.
Well, we got him for 5 years, so it's either we sell him on and we bring in somebody that it fits like a glove, the style of football that we want to play, but he's not going anywhere based on we got him for 5 years. He just signed in the last summer or whatever, so he's not going anywhere
Those
unless it's
contracts,
on.
those contracts scare me because they don't really mean anything. They just
It's
mean,
on our terms, though. That's what I mean. Like, if the club
yeah.
decide that they want to move him on and they have something else planned for the football that we're trying to play, then that's on them. But like, it's not a situation like Rudiger or Christensen where we're running that
Yeah, it's
contract
different.
and begging these guys to stay. You know what I mean? Like, it's different. But
just
like,
before we,
yeah, go ahead. I just wanted
gonna,
to get your thoughts on Ziyech, though. Like, what you thought his game was like at the Crystal Palace game before we move on.
Spot on. I think he's, like I said, I think he's the only player at the moment that I can see real effort with, or one of the only players I can see real effort with. Rudiger's another one. Kovacic is another one as well. They're players that you can tell, would run through walls for Thomas Tuchel at the moment. And again, it's lucky that we have players like that. One of the things that does annoy me when I go on sort of Twitter or somewhere, I think fans forget that we don't smash teams. We don't beat teams 5 or 6, 7-0. We never do that.
Never.
I can't remember the last season we did that.
Ancelotti.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, probably even going back further as well. So we don't do it. So I expect 1-0, 2-0, clean sheets. I get that because we've arguably got one of the best defensive backlines in the Premier League. So I get that, but we need players like Hakim Ziyech to step up every now and again. And it might be the fact that he's playing in a more suited position, but I put it down to the fact that he had a lot of criticism. And if you remember, there was a time when he kind of was in and out the team as well, early sort of Tuchel times as well. So it might just be the fact that he's getting regular football now. He's getting consistent football.
Yeah.
And he's able to link up with some of these players a bit more. And you kind of do see that with Kai Havertz, Lukaku, and Havertz, which I think is the preferred sort of front three now, which is going to get me onto my last question before we move on. But Timo Werner seems to be in the cold at the moment, which is a bit strange because when he came in, there was obviously a lot of talk, almost a lot of pressure as well when you think about some of the misses that he had and all of this stuff. But he still went on to score quite a few goals in his first season. But what's your thoughts on Timo Werner? Because I think if there's someone who's going to go this summer, it could be him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to disparage any players that play for the badge, but he's just not good enough. He's good at running in behind. Again, you could probably make the argument that him and Lukaku suit a different brand of football altogether than what we're trying to play right now. But when I look at Timo Werner and I see him, the technical ability is just not there for me. And it's not just like I don't need him to see him do step overs and dribble and like even just striking the ball, timing your run to strike the ball correctly to threaten the goal. Like he doesn't even do that. So many times. Like his timing of when he's trying to strike the ball is just so off. It just dribbles into the keeper and he's not even really like testing him. You know what I mean? Like these are fundamentals. Your striker is a guy that you depend on to when you fashion that final ball for to at least make a good contact on the ball, strike it clean, finish, of course, the first thing is you have to strike the ball clean. The second thing is you have to find an area in the net where the goalie can't get to. And I don't think that he does any of those things well. He doesn't strike the ball clean. He gets into great areas. Obviously, his pace is blinding, but he doesn't strike the ball well enough for me. And when he does, he doesn't find the areas where the goalie has to work. He doesn't work the keeper enough for me. So I wouldn't be opposed to seeing him leave if we bring in somebody else that could, be a little bit more, of a striker, for lack of a better term. Like we've been seeing him play mostly on the left flank as well. And like, he's not technically, like I said, he's not a technical striker. He's not a guy that can dribble past the guy. Like his best attribute is his pace. And if you're playing against teams that play with a low block and aren't looking to engage in, the half spaces, what are you getting from Timo Werner? Like he's not utilized correctly in the setup that we have right now. Again, and it goes back to what I was saying before with Lukaku. We need to drop the line back a little bit further so these guys can have a little bit more influence in the game. We have to drop our high line back even like 10 meters so they can have a little bit more influence, engage the defense to play a little bit higher and have those guys use their pace to get in behind. But right now, I don't see anything that Timo Werner can offer this squad that we can use in this current setup that we're playing right now. Like I just don't see it. If
Mm.
we start to play back more, obviously he can press. He's a very good presser of the ball, and if we start to use that more as a hallmark of our game, and he tries to, and we try to like just put pressure on the ball, obviously he can close really quickly, and that's something you can utilize. But overall, when we're trying to hurt teams in the final third and like really like put them to the sword, I just don't see how we're going to do that with this guy, because he just doesn't possess the technical quality to really impact games in that
Mm.
final third for me.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a shame because I think when he came, there was obviously high expectations for him.
Mm.
The same with Kai Havertz, Hakim Ziyech, when they all came in, but it just doesn't seem to have worked. I don't know what it is. Again, it might be the reasons you've just pointed out, but I do think in the summer, if there's going to be someone that potentially leaves alongside all this sort of deadwood of players that we've got, I think Timo Werner's name's going to be in there, unfortunately. But it's a shame for him. I think he's still got obviously a long career ahead of him, but I just think his time at Chelsea is probably come to an end. But let's move on to the press conference earlier that Thomas Tuchel held. There wasn't
Yeah.
really much that came out of it.
No.
That I can remember. Let's just get it up so we can.
I kind of wish that they would have been translating the French portions of it as well, because
Yeah, yeah.
I wanted to see what the French, because they have a different understanding of Tuchel just because of his time at PSG and like his football and
Yeah.
whatnot. So I would have liked to have been able to translate what they were saying there, but my French immersion classes were not very good. So
I,
I
I
got
did try
me
and
and
I tried to keep up, but I gave up in the end. But there was some good news that came out of it. Obviously, I think he mentioned obviously Callum Hudson-Odoi is potentially going to miss the game due to the pain that he's still got in his Achilles. But he did say that Cesar Azpilicueta is back in training now as well. I think Mason Mount trained with the team as well today. I'm going to be honest, I don't want to see Mason Mount play tomorrow. Maybe game 10, 15 minutes if we're winning comfortably. But
you mean just based on match fitness, yeah?
yeah, I'd give him a run out if we're doing okay. But we've got, for me, the big games on Sunday. I think
Yeah.
against Liverpool, that's a big game, cup final.
Yeah.
I'd give him minutes because obviously he's missed a lot of training by the sounds of it as well. But to have Cesar Azpilicueta back and Mason Mount, obviously we knew about Reece James, who I think is coming back into team training very shortly, if not already. Ben Chilwell obviously still sidelined, but key players coming back. What was your thoughts on the press conference?
I mean, the major takeaway for me was just the stuff that he said about less about the Lille game and more about like how we're playing with Lukaku and stuff like that, and how he's basically going to force feed Lukaku. Like he sees him as a solution. He's a solution to the problems that we're having in the final third and whatnot, and he's always going to include him. So I mean, you ask anybody on Twitter right now, they're going to tell you drop Lukaku. Drop Lukaku.
You wait till you
Play.
see my predicted lineup.
I'm sure he's not in it. But like most people will tell you that. But I think that what Tuchel has in mind is to keep playing him, because I mean the reason why we bought him is because we always had problems scoring goals. Yeah, and as much as we were very good at like pressing teams and creating turnovers and whatnot, it didn't really amount to much because we weren't scoring enough, and we're well off the pace. And if we can get Lukaku scoring, because like I will say this, he does have a knack for scoring goals when he gets the opportunity, he can finish. But
Yep.
it's just getting him into the like you basically have to spoon feed him opportunities because he's not doing enough off the ball to get into the areas where you want him to score. But I feel like what Tuchel has been saying is leading me to believe that he's going to persist with Lukaku, regardless of form, and he sees him as his golden ticket to, getting us out of this doldrums. But I mean, I beg to differ. I would rather see a different setup. I think that we can play more effectively with a Kai Havertz playing as a number 9, false 9, wherever you want to call it, and just basically, use our pace to try and hurt them in the final third more so than like power what we get from Lukaku, which is he's just too stationary for me. Like I need to see more movement off the ball. I need to see more, link up play. I need to see him come deep and like try and like engage in the half spaces and like give players the ability to build off of him. And he just doesn't do that, right? He's very much a, box in the box, striker who, if you get in the box in that that's 6 yard box, he's probably going to score. But football is not just in the 6 yard box. We need him to be more involved in the buildup as well, and he's just not that right now.
Yeah, it's definitely true. I think he's I mean, I'm gonna show my lineup shortly, but just
Yeah,
talking about CRYCHE, a massive game tomorrow, but also a massive game on Sunday. I think
massive.
I think personally for me, I'd play him tomorrow and I'd play him on Sunday as well. I'd play him in the final. I think he's too good of a player not to have. And we got to remember as well, we don't want to go into this game tomorrow and then have to go and try and, we lose tomorrow and then we've got to try and get a result in France,
Yeah.
in the second leg. So I think we've still got to take the game seriously. As much as I'm thinking about Sunday, we still have to put out a strong team for me. And I do agree with you. In fact, I'm going to share it right now. I'm going to share my lineup
Yep.
I can start babbling on about it and we can just get it up. But yeah, you're going to be surprised. I've gone with Werner, and as much as I've just said,
Wow.
he's probably not got. I've gone for 5 at the back because I think Tuchel will. I don't think he'll do the 4-3-3 or
Mhm.
4-2-2-2, which I think he's done before. I
So
think
no
he'll go.
Kova, eh? No Kova.
No, well, this is the thing. So I think that team that I've got there can deal. I mean, Lille, I think they're 11th in their domestic
Yeah, they're
league. I think
struggling right now. They lost a lot of players in the off season.
that's it. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
they're struggling. But that Jonathan David guy, he can play football, man. Trust me. As a Canadian, I watched him a lot, and
I
that guy
think
can score goals, man.
I think they're going to make it difficult for us. You look at the Palace game; they made that difficult. You
Mhm.
go back to the Watford game. I think just before Christmas as well. There was a couple of
Yeah.
games around that time. We struggled. We struggled to break them down. But I do think this, for me, my back five would be the only thing that worries me is Alonso, and not because I don't think he can perform in this game, but because I don't want to see him get injured. So that would be my thing. If we lose Alonso for this final on Sunday, it would
Mhm.
hurt me to not have him in it, because I think he's going to be key for me. I
Mhm.
think on Sunday, I think we need to play our best team that we've got, and the
Mhm.
only natural left wing back we've got is Alonso, so he has to start for me. Azpilicueta goes out saying. I just think that, again, the only thing for me is the legs. He's obviously getting a bit older now, so is he going to be able to play? I mean, he played in the Club World Cup, and
Yep.
the games that he's played so far, you can tell that the tiredness is kicking in with him. So Silva as well. I don't like to play Silva back to back games, but I
Needs
think,
must, man. He's so important, man. So
come on,
important.
for me, him and obviously Rudiger, who, I hope he stays. I hope he stays. But Rudiger and Christensen, I think they'd be my two centre backs alongside
Mhm.
Silva. Jorginho and Kante, I think that's more to save cover. I don't think I'd play Kovacic in this game. I think I'd keep him fresh for Sunday. Maybe bring him on, like I said about
Right.
Mason Mount as well. I'd bring him on if we need to. I think if we're winning the game, we're cruising the game. Sorry, if we're losing, I don't even know if I'd risk him. I don't think I'd risk them in the game. But
We're
um,
not. We can't lose this game. Like, as much as like the cup final is important, we can't
mm,
lose this game. Like, Champions League is still
it's still
very
big.
much
Oh, it's massive.
huge.
It's
And especially
massive.
against, you get a opponent like Lille. If
Mm,
you can't win at home against Lille, like, no disrespect to Lille. Like, I think any team in the Champions League is a tough opponent, but there's a lot of money at stake here, and we have to play to our strengths. We have to
mm.
play our strongest lineup in this game, because you know not advancing in the Champions League against Lille
It's
is
massive. No, I mean, and
massive.
they're not a bad team. They're not a bad team at
No.
all. I think they're having a massive blip. We've seen it with teams before. So I do expect them to make the game difficult. I've gone for
Mhm.
Havertz and Ziyech, and obviously Timo. I think Timo's got to be given. I think for two reasons. I think I dropped Lukaku again just to maybe take him. I mean,
Out
the
of the
game at
fire.
Palace, yeah, just take him out the limelight, give him a night off just to get out the heat of the in the kitchen or whatever they say. But I'd get him out of that, and I'd bring
Mhm.
in Timo Werner, who should be fresh when you think about it. He hasn't played much football.
Yeah.
For me, this would be someone who I'd bring into this game. Maybe swap Havertz and Werner over, depending on
Yeah.
how the game's going. But because I do prefer Havertz in that 9 role. But I think after the games that we've watched him play off that left side, he's done really well. So difficult one. But what would you change? I suppose what would you
The only
change
thing I
here?
would change, like, I think three at the back is probably the way to go, and we're probably going to see pretty much that back five that you talked about. Maybe Chalobah comes in for Christensen if you're thinking about also the Sunday game or the
Mm,
cup final, But I would definitely play Pulisic with Ziyech and Havertz more so than Werner, because I just think Werner is just completely out of form. He's not really shown. He hasn't played enough football to challenge or play in a game that is of this magnitude. He hasn't really, like, you can't ask him to come in and put in a performance against Lille in the knockouts of the Champions League at this point. He's got to find, limited minutes. The game is comfortable. You bring in Timo Werner, hope he can find some form there. But at this point in time, when the magnitude of this match, I can't play him. He hasn't shown me enough to play him. I'd play Pulisic. I'd play Havertz in the middle, and I'd play Pulisic in his preferred role on the left, and then see what we can get from those guys. Again, we can speak about all of our attackers at length outside of Ziyech right now, because none of them have really been performing. All of them have been misfiring. But I thought that, like, at least with Pulisic, he provides us with the technical ability to dribble past players and use his pace and whatnot as well. And whether or not he's giving us the end product that we need right now, it's very much debatable. But when you compare him to what you get from Werner right now, what I see from Werner, outside of just the fact that he's a pace merchant and a guy that can get in behind, I would 100% take Pulisic, what Pulisic offers, more so than what I would give from Werner. And even, like, I agree. Like, obviously, if you play him anywhere, you play him as a striker where, he's most suited. And I agree with what you have there. Play him there if you can play him at all, rather than try and play him on the flanks, because he's just not technically good enough. But yeah, I just think in this game, if you're gonna drop Lukaku, you can't drop him like Werner right now.
He's got a good record. He's got a good record in Europe, though. I think his record's not too bad in Europe.
Yeah, you're right about that. You're right about that. I don't know if he's been, well, I don't know if he's been scintillating there. You could be right. Honestly, I'll hold my hand up if he can play against Lille and give us good minutes.
If he scores, we get you back on, and you can hold your hands up.
Honestly, I have no faith. I can't really call one attacker over another based on what I've seen this season. Like, I can't say that this guy has to play or this guy has to play. It's a mixed bag. Some players give you form, and other players, it's just, I don't know how to call it. Like, I haven't been able to, like, nail a lineup right since maybe November.
This is the thing with Tuchel, because he changes it so much, and it goes back to that thing around consistency and not having you don't want to play the team. You can't play the same squad every game. That's unrealistic. But you still have a core spine of the team that that's going to be the team that is going to be built around. And we haven't even got that. We haven't got like you look at the midfield, it changes how often, and potentially maybe that even the centre backs, they get changed all the time. Maybe Mendy's the only name that you kind of expect to see, and even then,
well, and Rudiger.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I suppose Rudiger
will always play. He's the only guy that plays on the left.
You've got to, because he does it. He, like I said, he runs through brick walls, and him and I mean, if Thiago Silva was 3 or 4 years younger, he'd be the centre back that we would be playing every game, regardless. But you have to wrap him in cotton wool. But I think that's I'm
not mad at your lineup, to be honest with you. I'm not mad at it. I think that there is a element of me that wants to see this as well, just because we need to switch it up, because what we have currently is just not working, So there's an element of that I want to see Werner get an opportunity to show what he can do. But I just feel like this game is just too massive to see him. Yeah.
But I do think as well he will go with Lukaku in the final on Sunday. And I think if it was me, I know it's 4 or 5 days after the Lille game, but I'd rest him. I'd bring on Mason Mount. I'd allow Mount to have, depending on how the game's going, I'd allow him to have maybe 15 or 20 minutes in the game, because I expect him to be involved on Sunday. I don't think I'd risk Reece James. I know Reece James potentially might be fit enough to make some part of the game, but I just wouldn't even risk it. I'd rather let him train for the rest of this week now. And come, Saturday evening, they can make a decision on whether he's fit enough to, if not start on Sunday, he can play it. I don't know. If he doesn't start on Sunday, I don't think he comes on. I think I don't, unless there's a tactical reason why he needs to play in the cup final. But it would make sense to start Reece James, in my opinion, on Sunday.
Yeah. You know what the thing is with Reece James? I'll say this. If we get smashed by Lille, like say a 3-0 at home or something like that, and we're pretty much out of the Champions League at this point,
Mm.
then I would risk Reece James in the final. I would risk him in the final just because we need to get back to, playing our preferred lineup at this point. Because if we're out of the Champions League, then this League Cup becomes all the more important. Not that it isn't, but like it's still secondary to me to the Champions League. I there's no team that I want to beat more than Liverpool. Don't get it twisted. There is no team I want to beat more than Liverpool. But
100%.
But when you're looking at the Champions League and what that means, not only to the club, but also to, the players and whatnot, and like attracting players and whatnot, then I still think if we lose to Lille, that's a major L. That's a major L, and we have to be, focused 100% on that game first before we start looking at this final on Sunday. And, for those reasons, I think that like Tuchel won't take a lot of chances with the lineup on Tuesday. With one eye on Sunday. I think that Tuesday's got to be the one where he's most focused. And then we have about 4 or 5 days to assess the team after the fact to assemble the lineup for Sunday. But yeah, who knows? Honestly, I have no idea when it comes to
Tuchel's probably the only one that does know, to be fair. But before we wrap up, what we like to do on here is we give our predictions, and we just so I'm going to go first for me.
Okay, please,
just because it's in my head, I'm going to go for 2-0 Chelsea. I think we'll keep a clean sheet. I think based on form, based on how we played against Palace as well, this is a game that we can get rid of that game as quickly as possible. And it's good that this game's come around so quickly to be able to do that. So I'm going to go 2-0, clean sheet. And yeah, if we do that, we win on Sunday.
Yeah. I like that. I that would probably be my prediction, but just to be different, I'm going to say a 1-0 because I just don't think that we've shown enough of that final third to put two past anybody. Like we're struggling to score against Palmeiras, we're struggling to score against Crystal. Lille is a different kettle of fish altogether. I don't think that they're defensively sound, but I just don't think that we have the understanding and like the chemistry on the pitch right now to say that we can just put two past these guys easy. But that would have been my initial prediction. 2-0, but I'm gonna go 1-0 just to be a little bit different.
Yeah. Hopefully we win. That's the main thing. We win,
no doubt.
And we can focus on Sunday. But just give everyone a shout out again where they can find your content.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on Twitter, I'm on YouTube. It's just Couch Critic. If you're finding me on Twitter, it's like CFC Couch Critic, I think, or Blue. I can't even remember anymore.
I'll put it in the description.
Yeah, it's probably Blue Couch Critic or something like that. But yeah, I basically just try and do match reviews after every game, and I try to focus on the tactical aspects, as I'm sure it's pretty evident that that's what mostly I'm focused on, less about the drama and more about just like trying to speak about like what works, what doesn't work, and from a limited perspective as well. Like I'm not by no means any sort of like footballing czar or anything like that. I just love the game and I like to talk about it, and this is the hobby that I've chosen to explore a bit more and talk about Chelsea. So I love that, and that's kind of where things have gone since.
Yeah, definitely. If you haven't already, make sure you check it out. There's a lot of good content, amazing content on there as well. So make sure you subscribe to his channel. Let him know that you're there. Like to comment as well. All the stuff, like it as well, because some people watch videos and they don't subscribe or they don't like.
It's important, man. Nobody sees it otherwise, right?
Yeah, smash the subscribe button, get the algorithm going. But Dennis, man, thank you for coming on. Appreciate you taking the time out as well.
Let's do it again.
100%. We're going to do this on a regular basis. We're going to get this regular. But yeah, thank you for coming on. And anyone who isn't, like I just said, smash that subscribe button. Smash it. Just keep pressing it. Every time you see a video, just like and subscribe and comment as well.
Start here. Start on this one right here.
100%. And then go to Dennis and do all the Dennis's as well. But appreciate you coming on. This has been From the Shed End podcast. Myself, TDOT, and Dennis. Thank you very much for listening or tuning in, wherever you're tuning in from. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much.